Can you really eat tomatoes for half a year, or even a whole year, without keeping them in the refrigerator? In today's video, I'm going to show you 2 ways to preserve tomatoes so they keep their full flavor. And the best part is, they don't even require a refrigerator. With these methods, you'll still be able to enjoy your tomatoes for many months, possibly up to a whole year. Stay tuned until the end, because I promise you'll be surprised. Tomatoes are such a familiar ingredient, no stranger at all in your family's daily meals. They are not only delicious, but also packed with nutrition. Every time Tracy goes to the supermarket, I have to buy several pounds at once to keep and eat gradually. That's exactly why I've learned so many ways to preserve them. Because if you don't know how to store them properly, these tomatoes will end up sharing the same fate as other wasted food, sitting untouched in the trash can. And throwing them away like that is no different than throwing your money straight into the garbage, such a waste. So make sure you watch today's video all the way through. Method 1. Preserve tomatoes with salt. Tomatoes are always a familiar ingredient, but they ripen very quickly and spoil easily if not stored correctly. Don't be like Tracy used to do, buying them, leaving them in the same plastic bag, and putting them straight into the cupboard or the refrigerator. I would often forget about them, and by the time I remembered, they had spoiled and had to be thrown away. Instead, let's try this method. First of all, when selecting tomatoes, Tracy always reminds you to choose ones that are completely intact, without any bruises, scratches, or cracks on the skin, because just one spoiled tomato can easily spread and damage the whole batch. In addition, you should also avoid choosing tomatoes that are already overly ripe and soft. Instead, pick ones that are just ripe enough, still firm, and naturally plump. That way, if you don't finish eating them right away, you can still keep them preserved for a longer time. Next, wash them thoroughly under running water to remove any dirt and impurities. Then use a paper towel or a clean cloth to carefully dry each tomato one by one. This step is extremely important because the drier the tomatoes are, the longer they can be stored, reducing the risk of spoiling during the preservation process. Next, prepare a glass jar that is completely clean and dry. It is best to rinse the jar with hot water and let it dry completely before use, to prevent any remaining bacteria. After that, begin by arranging a layer of tomatoes at the bottom of the jar. Once the first layer is neatly in place, sprinkle a thin layer of salt evenly on top. This layer of salt will help with antibacterial action, absorb excess moisture, and create a stable preservation environment for the tomatoes. Continue repeating the process. 1 layer of tomatoes, 1 layer of salt, until the jar is full. Preserving tomatoes in salt is the best way to prevent oxidation, because when in contact with salt, the oxidation process, the very cause of food spoilage, slows down, allowing the tomatoes to retain their bright red color much longer. One very important point is not to pack the tomatoes too tightly. If you press them down too firmly, the fruits are easily bruised, and the salt cannot penetrate evenly. When left moderately spaced, the tomatoes have a small amount of room to breathe, while the salt spreads evenly as well, ensuring much better preservation. When the jar is full, close the lid tightly to prevent air and moisture from the outside from entering. The jar of salted tomatoes should be kept in a dry, cool place and away from direct sunlight. A dark, cool environment will help the tomatoes maintain their color and flavor for many months. Whenever you need to use them, simply take the tomatoes out, rinse off the layer of salt on the outside, and you can cook with them right away. This method saves time and is very convenient for quick meals. In particular, if you want the flavor to be richer, you can add a few cloves of garlic or a few bay leaves in between the layers of tomatoes and salt before sealing the jar. The garlic and bay leaves will gradually release their aroma, making the salted tomatoes more flavorful and unique. This is not only a method of long-term preservation, but also a clever tip to enhance the culinary value in your family kitchen. Method 2. Tomatoes pickled with spices and sterilized. Not only salt, there is also another quite interesting way to preserve tomatoes, by soaking them with spices, which not only helps preserve them, but also turns them into a delicious dish that can be eaten gradually. First, when buying tomatoes, they need to be washed thoroughly under running water to remove dirt and bacteria still clinging to the skin. After that, let the tomatoes drain completely, then cut off the stems and continue slicing into evenly sized round pieces. Slicing not only allows the tomatoes to absorb the spices more easily, but also creates convenience when taking them out to use. You can cook them right away without needing to cut again. After slicing, place the tomatoes into a large bowl and set aside while preparing some accompanying spices such as onions, parsley, garlic, and a few other seasonings. First, wash everything thoroughly and drain before prepping. For the onion, peel off the skin and slice thinly into small pieces. In addition, peel the garlic and slice it thinly. Parsley should be chopped into small, even pieces. In addition, prepare a few bay leaves and some whole black peppercorns. All of these ingredients not only bring out a delicious aroma and rich flavor for the pickled tomatoes, but also contribute to antibacterial properties, helping the tomatoes stay preserved for longer. After preparation, place each spice into its own separate bowl. Next, prepare clean and dry glass jars, choosing the size depending on the amount of tomatoes you want to preserve. Then rinse the jars with hot water and let them drain completely to ensure they are sterilized, with no remaining moisture or bacteria. This is a very important factor, determining most of the quality of preservation. Wait until the jars are completely dry before starting to arrange the ingredients. First, line the bottom of the jar with a few bay leaves, add a few whole black peppercorns, a little minced garlic, some onion slices, and a bit of chopped parsley. Next, place a layer of sliced tomatoes. Then continue sprinkling onion, garlic, parsley, and spices in between. Keep repeating multiple alternating layers like this until the jar is nearly full, making sure all the ingredients are distributed evenly so the flavor spreads throughout the entire jar. Once the layering is finished, add about half a teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of 5% vinegar into each jar. Vinegar helps create a lightly acidic environment that inhibits bacteria, especially dangerous bacteria that cause food poisoning like botulinum, while salt enhances antibacterial ability and helps retain flavor. After that, pour clean filtered water into the jars until all the tomatoes and spices are fully submerged, then tightly close the lids. Next, to make the tomatoes last longer, one more sterilization step is needed. First, prepare a deep pot and line the bottom with a clean towel to prevent the jars from bumping against each other and cracking during boiling. Arrange the jars of tomatoes inside the pot, then pour in water until it reaches the level of the jar mouths. Place the pot on the stove, bring the water to a boil, then reduce the heat and maintain the temperature at about 176 degrees Fahrenheit, 80 degrees Celsius, for 35 minutes. This sterilization step is very important, as it not only helps eliminate any remaining bacteria, but also creates a safe preservation environment for the tomatoes. After the required time, remove the pot from the heat and let the jars cool gradually right inside the pot. Once the jars are completely cool, you will notice the lids sinking inward. This is the sign that the sterilization process has been successful, with the air inside the jars drawn out, creating a vacuum-sealed environment. Finally, store these jars of spiced pickled tomatoes in a dry, dark, and cool place, away from direct sunlight. With this method, tomatoes can be preserved for many months, even up to a year, while still retaining their fresh flavor, crisp sweetness, and the distinctive aroma from the added spices. Whenever you need them, simply open a jar, take out the tomatoes, and enjoy them directly, or use them to prepare a variety of delicious dishes. So, in today's video, I have shared with you two very simple yet effective methods to preserve tomatoes. With the salt method, tomatoes can stay fresh for many months without needing the refrigerator, still red, juicy, and delicious as if just picked. And with the spiced pickling method, not only can they be stored for a long time, but they also gain a richer flavor, giving you ready-to-use tomatoes for cooking at any time. These are all easy little tips to apply in the kitchen, saving money while ensuring the family always has clean and safe food. Have you ever tried any of the tomato preservation methods that Tracy has shared before? If so, leave a comment and let Tracy know how it worked for you. And if you find these tips useful, don't forget to give a heart, hit like, leave a comment to share your feelings or your own experience, and remember to follow the channel so you won't miss many other great tips that I'll be sharing with you in upcoming videos. Thank you, and see you next time. Fuel tips and money-saving tricks every day. Your support is truly the motivation for me to keep bringing even more helpful content.